What's up, guys? This is Brave, and I'm back with another review of Grownish. This is season 3, episode 10. The episode is titled Hard Place. Let's go ahead and get started with this episode because this episode actually featured no Zoey. She was not in this episode, but that makes sense because she decided to leave college and become a full-time stylist, so of course she's not going to be around her friends all the time. Now that I see this episode, I'm not sure if it was a good idea to have Zoey completely leave school, just because that takes her out of the friend dynamic, because of the way the show is set up. Like, this show it's supposed to be based on these kids being in college, but with Zoey not being there, she could technically be MIA for multiple episodes. So they pretty much used Zoey, though, just to do the voiceover for this episode, because we did start this episode with her explaining things about Anna and her dating history, because we see that Anna, she was out on a date with Javi, and they're at, like, the end of the date, and she kissed him. Next thing you know, they're in her bedroom, and of course she's trying to hook up with him, but he stops, and he's like, he can't, because Javi lets her know that he's celibate. He's been celibate for 6 months. So you would think that this would align with Anna's Christian beliefs, but she's taken aback. First of all, she didn't believe him. He's like, no, I'm serious. And that kind of pisses her off, because she felt like he should have told her earlier. And I'm like, well, when was that going to come up in conversation? Because I just don't think that that's something that a person would lead with. And that's what he said. So she's like, well, this is a lot to process. And he ends up leaving. So we next see Aaron and Rochelle. They're kissing in bed, and she has to leave, though. She's like, oh, I have a meeting to go to at the BSU. And Aaron is like, oh, that's just a bunch of fake woke people who's worried about bringing potato salad to the next meeting and all this stuff. And it's very interesting to see how Aaron's character has transitioned out of being that BSU student, because wasn't he like the BSU president or something like that? When did he transition out of that? Like, I feel like when we met Aaron, he was like the Black Student Union guy. Like, he was that guy. He was all about Black people and their rights and all this stuff. He was being a little activist. But then, as the show became more about everyone in a relationship and who they're hooking up with, we stopped seeing that. So I guess at some point he just disassociated himself with the BSU. Like, I'm confused as to when he stepped down, why he stepped down. That would have been an actual good storyline, but that's not what they gave us. So Rochelle ends up convincing him to actually go to the meeting with her. She promised him that she would hook up with him later. I can't lie, that part did kind of make me cringe, just because I feel like if a woman is asking you to do something with her, she should not have to promise that she's going to have sex with you for you to agree to attend something with her. I thought that was definitely sending in a terrible message that women have to use their bodies to get men to do things. So we next see Jazz, Sky, Anna, as well as Vivek in the kitchen. And Vivek is just like, wait, so Javi is celibate? Like, he's not doing anything? And the ladies are like, yes, a lot like you. And he's like, well, I'm hooking up with somebody. And the ladies don't believe him, of course. And they just kind of like walk off, because nobody's believing Vivek is hooking up with anybody. But of course he proves us all wrong in this episode. So Jazz is like, I don't see what the problem is, Anna. You love God just like he does. But Anna, she's like, oh, well, I thought that that's more so reserved for priests and nuns. And Javi, he just wants to hear God more clearly, and he really loves God. But also Anna says that, she was just raised a good Catholic and doesn't go to church as often as she should. But I just feel like she never gave a valid reason as to why she was feeling so, like, worked up about this. Like, I can't believe that he can be celibate. Like, I genuinely do not understand how this goes so far against what Anna technically believes in. Like, Anna has always been the Christian conservative, but as we can see, there's nothing too Christian about her or conservative besides her political beliefs. But that's a whole nother story, because I feel like that's kind of a character flaw. So, and I'm not saying that because she's Christian she can't hook up with guys. What I'm saying is that you would think that this actually aligns with who Anna has been portraying herself to be. So after that, Vivek, he ends up coming back around, and he mentions that he's having sex, and Jazz is like, how long are we going to entertain this charade? So she ended up asking him, like, what was his end game? Because at this point, it's like Vivek, he just kept mentioning that he's having sex with someone. It's like, okay, but we're not getting anywhere with you just yelling this out. So Vivek, he starts up with his bad advice again. And what I mean by that is I feel like Vivek gave Doug bad advice on the last episode when he was basically telling him that, you need to go ahead and drop Jazz just so he can hook up with other women. And now he's saying that all guys have this drumbeat in their head telling them that they need to hook up with people. And then he proceeds with this rhyme that I'm not going to repeat because I just cannot. I cannot with Vivek. But what I meant by him and this bad advice this week is that I feel like because Vivek is now hooking up with somebody, he feels like everyone needs to be hooking up, if that makes sense. Like, before, Vivek used to give some pretty decent advice, but now, because he has a girl that's, with him, he just feels like everyone should be doing exactly what he's doing. So after Vivek leaves, Jazz is like, well, maybe, if that's the case, one more sexy date night and he just might break. But Anna's like, she doesn't want that for him because he made a vow. So, Sky, she's like, well, maybe this is good for her, considering she's always says that guys are basically with her just so that they can smash. So now we have Anna, she's rethinking the situation, and she realized that maybe this is a good thing for her. So we next see Doug. He's at the BSU when Aaron gets there, and he's basically there just for free food, and he swears he's there for knowledge, but he really there just for the free food. So the meeting starts, and of course they talk about somebody bringing potato salad, and it's basically all the things that Aaron mentioned before. And Doug kept chiming in, and that kept making me laugh. But they do start the meeting talking about how they cut the budget for the BSU, and come to find out, their tuition money is actually going to funding private prisons. So now Aaron, he's getting all worked up about, that's wrong, they can't do that. And I'm like, see, this is why he should have stuck around in the BSU, because that was more so who Aaron really was. He was like this kid who believed in black people and black lives, and he was always for the people. And I still think that he had like some type of leadership role, and I want to know, how did he step down? So the guy who was speaking from the BSU, he was like, oh, when we filed a petition with the dean like 3 weeks ago, And that pretty much was that scene. And like I said, I do miss activist Aaron, and I'm glad that he's coming back. But we do see Jillian. She's eating, and Jazz and Sky roll up on her, offer her some hot sauce. And, she just mentions how she misses a good home-cooked meal. And they're like, oh, you can just come with us this weekend. We're going to our dad's food truck. And I'm like, yeah, this is cute. I do like all these three ladies hanging out together. But I do want to see Sky and Jazz on the field because they run track. Next, we see Anna and Javi. They're having a little movie date, and she's holding on to this pillow for dear life. I could not. And there's like some sex scene in a movie, and it basically makes things even more awkward. Anna suggested they play a game, but Javi, he just wanted to head home. So at the end of the night, while he's about to leave, instead of giving him a kiss or a hug or something, Anna like holds her hand out like they're going to shake hands. And he's like, I've been kissing you for 6 months. Why would I shake your hand now? I'm like, Anna, you were wrong for that. Like, I guess she feels like she's just trying to, be more accommodating. But I'm like, you're kind of making it worse. So Javi leaves, and we hear some woman, she's moaning, and a headboard is banging. And this is all for Vivek. And I'm like, okay, I guess, whatever. So the next morning, Anna is cooking in the kitchen. She's making some bacon, and like, she's clearly, I feel like, stress eating just because she doesn't know what to do in this situation. The twins come in, and she ends up flashing Sky just so that Sky can have a piece of bacon. And she says that now she's been hearing that same drum beat that Vivek did earlier in the episode, and that's all she can think about now. So Jazz is like, well, with me and Doug, we had to not be around each other. And Anna's like, well, I don't want that because we're in a relationship. Okay, here's my problem with her saying that. Because she said that like as if Jazz and Doug were just hooking up with each other. Like, they were in a relationship that was longer than yours. So, I think that, Jazz was just trying to make some type of connection with her. But, I don't know, for Anna to say that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But anyways, she just questions if she's strong enough to do this. And then here comes Vivek talk about he has to rehydrate because of all of the events that happened the night before. And he lets the ladies know that he's in a relationship. I'm sorry. Vivek literally lives with them, and he magically got into a relationship. Like, we haven't seen Vivek out with no girl on campus. We haven't seen, him do anything with any other woman besides, like, we heard him the night before, and now he just magically has a girlfriend. All right, writers, I see y'all are trying to do something with Vivek, but the execution, I'm not exactly a fan of. Okay, so after that, because he, like, leaves, Jazz is like, well, just don't make the same mistakes that I made with Doug by not letting him know how you really feel, especially if she doesn't think that she can do this. And I'm like, I'm all here for this, Jazz, but at the same time, I feel like you weren't being honest with Doug either, because when you guys were taking a break, you didn't tell him how, you felt jealous if you saw him with another girl, like. But whatever, we're just gonna let that be that. So Jillian and the twins, they do go see their dad, and at his food truck, and he just talks about how proud he is of the twins and how South Central, the whole neighborhood, is proud of them. And if his girls go to the Olympics, that means the whole family's going to the Olympics, and South Central is going to the Olympics as well. And this just makes me circle back to the discussion of Doug and Jazz, because it's like I said, their break, it's not because, you know, she is like on some BS. Like, this girl is literally training for the Olympics. The Olympics. Something that comes around every 4 years. Like, I just feel like if we were to be, like, if this was like a real life situation, I feel like Doug probably would have been a little bit more, I feel like he would have been a little bit more willing to stick it out the 5 months, just because of what she's trying to accomplish. Like, I understand that some people were like, 5 months is such a long time, and Doug shouldn't have to wait around for Jazz and all this stuff. But I'm like, this girl is trying to run in the Olympics. Stop acting like she's just like has a few competitions and then that's going to be that, or she's just running around, the neighborhood. No, the Olympics is a big deal. So after that, we see Aaron. He ends up going back to, I guess, the BSU area. I do know that Doug was there. He was playing a video game with that BSU guy whose name I feel like we never got. So, Aaron, he's done all this research about the whole private prison thing. And Doug, he mentioned something about the Cheesecake Factory. And Aaron is like, why are you always hungry? So Doug is like, oh, it's because I'm not having sex. And then the BSU guy's like, why do you think I'm so husky? I don't get no ass. And I'm like, I'm sorry, but weight has nothing to do with that. I know plenty of guys who were considered bigger during my college years and they were getting action. So I'm not understanding this whole storyline of the guy saying that, but whatever. So basically, Aaron found out that the companies that are investing in the private prisons are also funding the security on campus. So now he feels like everybody should be talking about this, but the BSU guys like, no, these are the same people who fund the BSU, and this will like piss people off. You have to basically play this game with these people, and Aaron doesn't want to do that. So we next see Anna. She meets up with Javi, and she has on sweatpants. She tells him that the celibacy thing is very hard for her. So, she just questions herself on how she can really be with him on this journey. So Javi is like, you off the hook. We don't have to be together. But she wants to make this work with him. And she asks him where he gets his strength from, and then she ends up visiting the church that he attends. We're back with Rochelle and Aaron, and they have hung posters all over campus about Cal U funding the private prisons. Now, we next get a thing of Jillian. She's meeting up with the twins, and she thinks that they're the perfect subject for her student film. And Sky, she's like, well, how much did this pay? She's like, it's a student film. I'll pay you in hot sauce. And Jazz is like, do we have to learn a lot of lines? She's like, you're not acting. This is going to be a documentary about two girls from South Central going to the Olympic trials. And here goes Sky. Well, people say that we're the Venus and Serena of track. I mean, I'm people, but, we are the Venus and Serena of track. And I'm like, that is actually funny. See, I like these type of scenes where we have the twins and Jillian, and we recognize that what they're trying to do is very important. Just because it can definitely influence other little girls to want to run track and make it to the Olympics as well. So after this, we see Aaron. He's still hanging up posters, and some security, they roll up on him. It's like, hey, you have to take these down. You can't hang all these up. And at this point, they feel like he's littering on campus. He's like, no, I'm well within my rights. I'm a student here. And one of the police officer was like, well, not police officer, but security. He's like, I need to see like some student ID. So Rochelle ends up walking up and she's like, what's going on? And Aaron is like, well, they're basically harassing me. And I'm like, okay, I can see where this is going. So, of course, Rochelle, she ends up whipping out her phone, and the lady's like, put your phone away. And Aaron's like, no, because technically her tuition dollars pay for your salary, so she's your boss, or whatever he said. And the guy's like, I don't know what you talking about with these tuition dollars. First of all, I feel like they said tuition dollars at least 8 times in this scene, and I hated it. But, the guy's like, I don't know what you're talking about, but you need to go ahead and take these down. Aaron says he's not going to, so Aaron ends up getting arrested. So now we go back to Anna and Javi, and he's dropping her off back at home. He's like, thanks for attending church with me. And she's like, no, thank you, because now she has realized that she actually wants to do the same thing that Javi is doing, which is realigning herself with God. So we're going to see them, blossom into this celibate couple who are really into God. I'm all here for that just because now that actually aligns with Anna and her personality. But my only problem is the fact that we took away the one good relationship that this show had, which was Doug and Jazz. But now we're going to force Anna and Javi on us. Okay, whatever. We just can't have the black couple be the one that lasts. So we actually, in this episode, meeting Heidi, which is Vivek's girlfriend, and Anna is like, yeah, I've heard of you, and she's like, oh, I hope that it's like good things, and she's like, yeah, it sounded great, knowing that she has never heard of Heidi, but she has heard Heidi making all that noise and racket with Vivek. So Heidi ends up going on about how she ended up losing her pink bra, and that's her date bra. I don't know who's writing this, but Anna, she mentioned earlier the term date bra, and I'm like, why are you guys putting date in front of that? Like, it doesn't even make sense. But another thing that didn't make sense was the fact that Jaslyn thinks that she was wearing the bra. Like, that part really did make me chuckle, because I'm like, she clearly must have just saw this bra in the backyard and was like, wait, is that mine? It looks like it's my size. Probably washed it and was like, all right, putting this on. I thought that part was really funny. But yeah, that was my review of this episode of Grownish. Let me know what you guys thought about this episode. Go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe to my channel, and I will catch you guys in the next review. Bye.